Hello, everybody, and welcome to USC Finals Weekend. We've got another good matchup, Texas versus Oregon. Last time these two teams met was all the way back in 2022, where Texas swept Oregon in the losers bracket. But a bit of a different story this time around. A meeting in the finals here. Oregon tying their placement from last year, and a win tonight would be the best placement they have ever gotten in USC, and I think this one could be a lot closer than many people expect. I'm iFlame, joined finally by Bless. How's your morning going?
I am doing quite well, and oh boy, is it finally. Of course, the viewers won't be knowing of our past, but we have tried to cast a few times together, and this is something like our third or fourth time trying to get in the booth, and we finally made it. So, of course, very delighted to be here with you this evening, for me, as it is evening where I am, and looking forward to a good match. Texas and Oregon. Of course, Oregon not the most common of faces in the final stage. You mentioned their top placing so far was 5th, 6th, losing out in the first round of finals. That happened just last year, and at that time it was their best placing in USC ever. So for now, they have matched that result, their best ever result in the USA States Cup, and they'll be looking to exceed it with a victory against Texas, who is, well, it's suffice to say that they are no stranger to the late stages of this tournament, never seeding outside the top 7 and never placing outside the top 8 in this tournament's history. But yeah, please tell us about the players who we have playing for us tonight.
So on the side of Texas, we have got cheerleader pair, Aiden Thicaton, Flames tier, Toybot, and Trigon. It's a very well-rounded roster. Obviously, you have your players that are comfortable on the Hard Rock and Cheerleader and Thicaton, and you have your kind of reading focused players in Toybot and Trigon for some nice variety. Over on the side of Oregon, we've got Bashiman, Cheng, Eddie, Luna's Tabby, Rinko, Shirokane, and Tile. Slightly less rounded, you know, they're a team that likes a lot more of the reading maps, a lot of the gimmick. Bashi and Luna is Tabby, both very strong reading players as well. And, you know, on paper, when given the names, given the historical context between these two rosters, it's easy to feel like Texas are the favorites, and I don't think you'd necessarily be wrong in assuming that, but when you actually look at how these teams have been playing so far in this tournament, Texas have had an average team placement of 4th overall, and Oregon, they've had an average team placement of 3.75, and they were actually the second strongest team in the semifinals, won both of their matches 6-1 against two, you know, relatively solid teams in Massachusetts and not Carolina, and Nevada. And so I definitely think Oregon are going to put up a fight. Now, unfortunately, this pool has very little reading, I would say. There's two reading maps in the pool, which very well are possibly going to be the targets of some Texas fans, and so the pool does feel slightly Texas favored this time around.
Yeah, and although you do say there are only really 2 reading maps in the pool, it's very much so a data pool. We've had a few pools where we see a little bit more quote-unquote standard maps. Thinking back to there was quarterfinals, a round of 16, where we saw just a very normal no-mod 3 in the no-mod pool. But no more of that. This map is incredibly USC pilled. It's basically the essence of what you would expect from a pool that you would get in the USA States Cup. And there's of course, that does entail a lot of very strange maps, even though some of them will be a little bit more mechanically intensive than others. Of course, we have, looking at the Hidden 3, Miss Victoria, very standard no-mod 2 stream map, but of course, that being in the Hidden pool does make it quite a bit more weird. And then looking at stuff like the Hard Rock 1 as well, we're going to be playing some CS 6.9 swing rhythm on an anime song, on some Idolmaster, some idol music. And of course, right next to it, Hard Rock 2 Valhalla, that's just some really intense nuke slider tech with Hard Rock of all mods. So it's not like Oregon doesn't have some gimmicky picks, but it's definitely a little bit different from the type of gimmick that you would typically be enjoying from someone like Bashiman, who really does like those incredibly small circles. Of course, that's what he's most known for, the CS10. And I mean, there is the AR0 level down in this pool as well, but as you were mentioning earlier, likely to just get banned out from the other side.
Yeah. And you mentioned the precision. That is going to be an interesting point of contention in this match because Boschman, obviously very well known for absolutely tiny circles, and Oregon have shown a willingness to pick a lot of these precision picks, but you look over on the other side of the screen, and Texas has also been picking precision very consistently, and they've time and time again been one of the top precision teams in the tournament. And so I do think those precision options are going to be very contested, and we'll see if either team has enough confidence in those maps to pick them early, or if they end up feeling like they're a bit of a risky pick and decide to save those for later. And beyond the precision, I do think we're going to see the usual, Texas are the tapping team, Oregon is the gimmick team, so we'll see that balance of picks play out. And I think the tech and alt maps are where it gets really interesting because Texas had some insanely strong tech results, but Oregon have also not shied away from picking some of these tech and some of these kind of flowy alt maps as well.
Of course, we definitely have our fair share of those. Speaking about the tapping, probably looking for a hidden 2 ban, and then I think there was just one map that really gave strain, looking at the DT2, some 243 strain, but even that map has plenty of sections where it's not super strainy. I was clicking through it in the editor earlier. And then, of course, there's the other elephant in the room, excuse me, just not even mentioning Freedom Dive in Fremont 3. So probably looking at 2 of those 3 maps getting banned out, and then, yeah, it's going to be an interesting battle on the alt and tech, of course, have lots of those in the pool
Yeah,
to get
I am.
done with. Mhm.
I was gonna say, I'm curious to see what we get of the out of the stream maps. You mentioned, Freedom Dive, which is 220 BPM, because Texas, they picked the tapping, but they really shied away from the lower BPM stream maps against Virginia. And so I am curious to see if they do want to go for those this time around. I do feel like Oregon has a much weaker stream roster than Virginia, so they should have a little bit of extra confidence. But yeah, we'll be getting into Oregon's warm-up now, and shout out to Oregon for having a reasonably length warm-up, only a minute and a half.
Yep. Excuse me. And yeah, about those other stream maps, I do think it was a bit of Texas, or a thing where Virginia has Rectagon, and then they have Mr. Streams himself, the streamer man himself, BTMC. So making good sense that you would leave those lower BPM flowing picks to Virginia to pick. But probably up against Oregon, more leaning towards picking it for themselves, I would think. And it does look we still have one more warm up to
Yep.
play through before we get into the picks and bans.
Yeah, these are two very experienced teams as well. Texas have the exact same roster as they did last year, where they play second. Oregon also have a full roster of players that have played at least 3 USCs, so I expect the pick bans to be pretty well thought out. And I mean, especially when you look at the captains of these two teams, Chillier and Bashiman. This is ninth appearance, in USC for each of them, which just ties them for the second most appearances. So it's safe to say we've got some of the most veteran captains that you can find in USC.
Yeah, Bashi man, all the way back since 2018, been such a consistent force for Oregon. Just talking about, excuse me, a couple more maps in this pool. DT1 300 BPM. Yeah, interesting. Any thoughts on that?
That one is interesting. I mean, it is just kind of a IAR DT1 pick. I definitely feel like it is more likely to be a pick for Texas between players like Decatur and, Decatur Flames tier Chillier. I think they tend to do pretty well on some of these higher ARDT picks. Oregon, I'm just not sure they have the lineup for that kind of map. But I mean, the question is whether their supporting players are comfortable tapping that at
Mhm.
the final stage, and we haven't seen them play too many maps in the semifinal stage. So my guess is no. So that does seem like a pretty Texas favored pick in my mind. But here we go into the bans. Texas gonna opt for the second pick, and I mean in terms of the likely bans, I think do expect we're gonna see Oregon just banning out the tapping heavy maps. So you're looking at things like DT2, DT3. I mean, technically, yes, there's also Freedom Dive, but that's a less likely ban. And then for Oregon, or sorry, for Texas, probably just going to see the gimmick banned out. You have that AR0, no mod 3, as well as the very kind of gimmicky low AR free mod 2. So those seem like the likely bans for both teams.
Yeah, the free mod 2, some very interesting grid style mapping on some very high CS and very low AR. CS 5.5, CS 7.5, so a bit of an extreme anti-mod, and yeah, that's going to be just Texas's first ban right away. And we do go into Oregon's ban. I do think there's a pretty decent chance we see Freedom Dive ban, but we'll just have to wait for a minute. Another interesting ban possibility is the DT4. That's some more high AR, and it's also DT alt, something that, I mean, I know Decaden is going to be quite happy about playing.
Yeah.
It's going to be DT2 first, however.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. It's 243 BPM
Yeah.
streams, and I think DT3 seems likely. Very sad about the free mod 2 ban. Means there's a lot lower chance that we're going to be seeing easy, because there are quite a few players capable of playing easy, but it's going to be the hidden one instead. So it does leave that no mod 3 open. I imagine that'll be a quick first pick for Oregon. But this one makes sense as well. Oregon are a team that absolutely love the hidden picks. I mean, they've picked hidden pretty much whenever they can. Very often they were second place on the hidden 2 last week, and they had the number 1 and number 2 score on last week's hidden 1, which was an AR8 map, to be fair. But yeah, I think anything hidden is going to have Oregon's name on it as we wait for a likely DT3 ban.
Yeah, and I will say this hidden one ban makes a lot of sense given you still have Toybot and Trigon for the AR0, and apparently Aidenth can also play easy from what I've heard, and maybe you have one of Decaden or Flames to try and learn the map as well. And put up something of a supporting score in lobby. And this hidden one, it's pretty mean of a hidden one too. It's the gimmickiest of the pool, CS5, with some rhythm and other control aspects. But it's going to be a DT1, so banning out both of the 10.5 maps, as we kind of brushed past that on the DT2. It's also AR 10.5.
It is, yeah.
So yeah, I guess in retrospect now, everything does make a lot of sense as we finally await Oregon's first pick.
Everything becomes clear with the power of hindsight.
Yes.
But does mean I feel like there are a couple pretty obvious picks for these two teams. You have one gimmick map left open, one speed map left open, but there are a couple more awkward maps, a couple more tapping maps, like, maybe Oregon do have a couple more rhythmic options that seem good for them, potentially later as we wait for this one. I do want to talk about, some of the players for Oregon, because obviously you've got the star power and Boschly, man, a player that everybody knows. But Eddie has been absolutely popping off. Honestly, not too far behind Boschly, man, in individual performance. And Eddie got top scores on the Hard Rock 3 and the DT3 last week. So Eddie has been such a massive performer for Oregon. And is a big part of the reason why they're in the finals for the second year in a row. And then you also have Luna is Tabby, formerly known as Schwartz, obviously an insanely capable rating and gimmick player that has also been putting up some very strong scores on gimmick maps all tournament. So that kind of core three has been doing so well for Oregon all tournament, and it's really just a question of scaling for a lot of them, I think. Obviously, we know Boschly, man, scales incredibly well. The question is more how well Eddie and Luna and Tabby can keep up with this pool.
And then, of course, just to touch on a couple of the other players, you've mentioned Chang as well. Rinko Shirokana and Tile, I believe I've seen them in quite a few community tournaments outside of USC, and I do remember some quite good results from them. Tile, I believe it was in Doc Interim Masters earlier this year that he put up a really good performance, but of course this is a bit of a different stage, a bit of a different type of pool, almost hanging around 8 stars at this point. And it's gonna be pretty tough for him to try and scale to this SR. We do have our first pick on the way. It is Fremod 1 picked by Oregon.
Fremod 3.
What is going, or Fremod 3? What is going on with this one?
Look, I think Dada said it best in the map pool showcase. This map is easy bait. It is so free to get a really good score on this map with easy, and Oregon have the easy players. I mean, I have a feeling Luna's Tabby is going to have a very good time on this map with easy. We might even see something like an easy HD, so they can throw in a second easy. Eddie is of course going to be in there for the hard rock. But Cheng being in the lobby does make me think we are just going to be seeing a hit in there, and then, of course, Luna's Tabby almost certainly going to be on the easy. Of course, for Texas, it is more up in the air. They can go easy on Trigon, but they could also just run the more standard Decatur hard rock with Trigon on the hidden, and that way they really like letting Flames tier no mud. So I think the angle is Oregon is saying, you know, we can tap 222 BPM. We're all relatively comfortable on the pick, and we're just going to run an easy and put up a really insane easy score because it is a 2x multiplier, I believe. So
yes, it is.
Yeah. I don't remember. I think that is, we did change it so that the easy is calculated on the overlay, but 2NG can correct me if it's not.
I believe it was corrected just a couple weeks ago, 1 or 2 weeks ago. But for now, we are into the map with basically things as you predicted. Trigon not going to be matching the easy from Luna's Tabby. It would have to be, of course, an easy hidden, or Flames tier would also have to take the hidden in order to fulfill the mod requirements, of course. Yeah, Eddie on the hard rock, Cheng on the hidden, and it is, yes, it is that Freedom Dive, the OG one. We're going to be looking for some Cookie Z cosplays from Eddie and Decaden in the bottom right and bottom left.
Yep. And with the easy on this map compared to Flames tier on the no mod, not only do you have the bigger circles, so the streams are a lot easier to aim, but you generally expect Luna's Tabby to end up with significantly better accuracy than Flames tier as we get further and further into the map. Now, Flames tier is doing a very good job of keeping up with that accuracy early on, but there's a huge chain miss early on for Flames tier. Now we start to see that accuracy difference. Trigon has found a miss on the hidden as well. It does get traded by Eddie. Of course, the hard rock is going to be, I'd say, by far the most difficult mod on this map, so Decatur doing a nice job of holding on, but Oregon find themselves with a pretty nice advantage early on. Luna's Tabby, it's easy, still holding that SS, and I would not be surprised to see that hold for quite a while still. And did Decatur find a miss right before that section? Yeah, Decatur finds a miss right before that break. All of a sudden, combo's completely gone from Texas. Luna's Tabby, Cheng have a big opportunity here.
Yeah, things were looking a little bit stiff in the beginning stages with a little bit of an accuracy deficit from Eddie, but now that is just thrown entirely out the window. It is all combo. Luna's Tabby getting a little bit of a savior from the note lock there on the easy. Almost double tapped, or early tapped that single, but they are well an okay. No longer on the SS, but they're just running this one down. I mean, of course, there's still a lot of map left to go. Only halfway done at this point, and Cheng has dropped his combo, so it's just Luna Schwartz up against the double recoveries of Flames tier and Trigon, which have started to come in nicely. The score gap is around 100k, but it's not really going too much further than that at the moment. Eddie also building up in a very nice recovery to match that of one of Flames tier and Trigon, but the accuracy going to be hurting him quite a bit.
Yeah, but it's such a big advantage for Oregon now. On these 4-minute maps, it is a ton of score to make up 113,000 points. We do have a third of the map to go, so you know there is technically time, but Eddie, Cheng both on the good recoveries. Luna does find the miss. That is the FC down, but the combo advantage is just not big enough for Texas right now, especially with Flames tier finding another miss on that no mod. Trigon is now being matched by both Cheng and Eddie, so Texas are going to need both of these big combos to drop off relatively soon as they're quickly running out of time, but and the ending is slightly trickier. You know, maybe the players are starting to have their stamina slightly worn down, so we'll see if Texas can bring this one back. There goes Cheng. That's part one. They just need a miss from Eddie now, and there's the miss from Eddie. Texas has time to bring this one back because they have the combo on Decaton. Question is, can Decaton hold, and will it be enough?
Yeah, and Eifling, just a moment ago, we saw the score lead at 100K. It is already cut in half. We are sub 50K in favor of Oregon now, and I mean, there's still a quarter of the map left. There's plenty of time. Trigon holding over 1300 combo at the moment. Decaton also with a very strong recovery at 800, and there's just nothing for Oregon here. It is all turning up Texas in the back half of this map. And 50K, there it goes in their favor. Trigon holding, and I think Texas have done enough at this point to hold into a very early break point. The easy being busted out by Luna's Tabby, but just not quite enough. Finding some more chain misses into the ending, and yeah, this is way too far gone at this point. Trigon with 1700 into the ending here. Can he hit the ending? Decaton's gonna drop his combo, but Trigon finishes out! And that is almost just under 1800 combo, and a 300,000 score lead for Texas as they find the first point of this match.
A very nice break point. I do really like the idea behind the pick from Oregon with the easy. But yeah, I don't think they were necessarily expecting Trigon to put up that kind of a score on the hidden. Just found a couple misses early on in the map. And, you know, there's not much Oregon can do about that as Texas now have the next pick, and they have a lot of strong picks available. Obviously, there's, I think, just one kind of heavy tapping pool left in the map in that DT3, but they do have quite a few other options. I do think they have the precision pick. They've got some of the slider tech picks, especially the one in the Hard Rock pool. So World is their oyster for Texas, as they have a lot of very solid options.
Yeah, Hard Rock Tech can be pretty happy to see, of course, very one specific person in the lobby playing that. Decaton, me very comfy on that one. One thing that, one last note about Freedom Dive before we move on, that's AR9 at 222 BPM. That is incredibly dense. Like, that it's just so hard to read because of the note density. I think this was brought up in OWC as well when it was pulled there. It's effectively an anti-mod. You're either playing 222 BPM Hard Rock streams or you're playing Air 9 hidden on 222 BPM. So no matter what mod you take, it's just so incredibly difficult. And yeah, Trigon, a really good score from him there. Do go into a Hard Rock 2 for Texas.
Yep, it is going to be Valhalla. This is going to be your Hard Rock slider tech pick. Very high slider velocity tech map, and I would say one of the more difficult maps in the pool without a doubt. So Texas not only relying on their tech and Hard Rock ability, but also potentially trying to abuse the skill cap of Oregon a bit, as it definitely feels like Texas have the higher skill cap roster, and we'll see if they can do so here. I imagine we are going to see the pretty standard Decaton, Chillier, and Flames tier roster. And let's talk about Flames tier. Flames tier had the number 2 no-mod 2 score last week. That was the no-mod slider tech map, and Flames tier throughout this tournament has looked so incredibly good. Obviously, it is Decaton who's kind of the big name on that team, who's played in OWC, and you kind of expect to be the strongest player, but when you look at the individual performances round after round, Flames tier from the start of the tournament has been so good for them. Was the best player in round of 32, third best in round of 16, and then has been 15th and 13th best in quarterfinals and semis, you know, ahead of Decaton on a lot of these pools. And so that duo of Flames tier and Decaton has been absolutely dominating. Kind of a similar story of Boshiman and Eddie on the other side.
Yep, one more note about the no-mod slider tech map as we do get into things here. No score on Oregon was able to pass a single score from the side of Texas. Of course, that being the falling map. Going to be quite different from what we have here in the Hard Rock Nuge slider tech. But still something to note as we do have the rosters in the lobby of the map underway. It's going to be Boshiman, Eddie, and Tile up against that trio you mentioned earlier, Chillier pair, Flames tier, and Decaton.
Yeah,
go.
I do think Eddie and Flames tier, I mean, obviously, along with the Caden, going to be the players to watch. Eddie outscored last week's Hard Rock 3, was a very impressive score, so it could certainly put up a big score here. This is a map I do expect to see a lot lower combos on, of course, compared to Freedom Dive, which is one a lot easier, and to just a lot more combo dense. But once this map gets going, it does not let up, so every miss at this point is going to count. All 6 players off to a pretty strong start. Tile making their first appearance in this match for Oregon. Decatur is going to find the first miss on the side of Texas, quickly traded back by Eddie, followed up by Bashiman and Chili here. Now we've got a bit of 1v1 Tile versus Flames tier, and they're always going to be relatively even.
Yeah, just the slightest of advantages in the favor of Texas as Chili continues to find some more chain misses. And there goes Tile as well, which quickly traded by Flames here, so still things staying fairly close. It's just the accuracy is really Decatur up at 97%, making a really big difference for his team at the moment. As yeah, there's just chain misses everywhere. And this map, once it gets going, as you said, it just keeps on going. And my goodness, are these sliders fast and crossing your screen. They are going everywhere. And of course, there are going to be some slider ticks on some of them. Maybe not these, but even still, nobody can hold any combo. As you were saying, just Decatur with actually the biggest combo in the lobby at 200 at the moment. And if that's not just a prime example of this map being incredibly difficult, then what is? As brief moment of respite, but this singular Decatur combo has basically just taken over the lobby at this point. 300, nobody's even close to touching him. It's already 300 score in the favor of Texas, and yeah, a little bit of a skill cap check as well for Oregon, churning out as Texas has hoped. It's 500k on Decatur at the end.
Yeah, that is pretty ridiculous accuracy, gapping pretty much everybody else in the lobby by almost 5% minus Flames tier. That is, I would not be surprised if that is, it might not be the top score, but it's going to be one of the best scores on this map of the weekend. And Decatur has done that so many times this tournament, where you have either a Hard Rock map or is playing the Hard Rock on one of those free mods, and you know, up against Hidden and no mod players has identical accuracy to them. Decatur, his accuracy is just so impressive, and yeah, if you know you can put up a score like that on this kind of map, it's pretty much an insta pick. As now Oregon left scrambling a bit as that breakpoint is consolidated, but I do think they have some direction. Of course, they don't have any kind of Freedom Dive-esque maps to bait them. I do think, I mean, it has to just be the No Mod 3, right? That AR0 CS5 map, I have to imagine.
I mean, surely they just opt to stabilize themselves. You know, we're not going to give up 2 breakpoints in a row. Let's just take our point here that we have on level down. And, I mean, of course, it's not necessarily free when you're looking at Trigon and Toybot on the other side of the lobby. But I mean, what better can you do realistically? Looking at the hidden pool, the hidden 3 has been taken away by a stream map. The hidden 2 is similar. It's high BPM flow-ish tech, or flow-ish mech tech. 210 BPM on that one. It's a Camellia song. So you can, just by that already, you can kind of get an idea of what kind of map you're dealing with. But yeah, really should just be looking at a level down pick here, and it is going to be that.
Yeah, I mean, credit where credit is due. You know, Trigon and Toybot as well have been very impressive on a lot of these rating picks, but Bashiman and Schwartz is possibly one of the strongest rating duos in the entire tournament, let alone this match. So Oregon should be the favorites on this one, and this kind of already feels like somewhat of a must-win for Oregon. I mean, it is best of 13, so there's still lots of maps to be played, but if you're giving up 2 breakpoints on your 2 first picks, it's not a great sign for the rest of the match. I am curious to see who the third is for Oregon. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Cheng in here. I think Eddie is more of a Hard Rock player, and Flames tier currently in the lobby for Texas. And this is another thing that's I've been so impressed with Flames tier this tournament. Flames tier has played 94% of the maps for Texas. You know, Flames tier is the kind of player that just practices absolutely everything and seems like can put up very good scores on just about everything, as well as I don't think Flames tier has sat out a single map so far.
Yeah, just some incredible all-rounding ability. I think he is a little bit more known for the mechanic side of things, but definitely able to step up and fill in on the reading when called upon, and we are going to see him, and as you said, on the other side, as you predicted, will be Chang to match. So of course, going to be eyes on the center of your screen, and maybe a little bit of attention on the peripherals as we just check to make sure that the supporting scores are not falling off too hard. Of course, this is AR0 CS5, low as you can go. And a very famous map at that. But just because it's famous, it doesn't necessarily mean that the rhythms are already known by all the players. So see just how much practice they put into this over the past week. Easy to get started with things.
This is my favorite map in the pool. I love this style of map, but also there's just a lot of variety to the rating as well. You know, a lot of times you get aim overlap rating, or you might get like aim control rating, but this map kind of does it all. Of course, we are going to start off with the slightly easier overlap aim rating, but we quickly get into these quads, these doubles, linear finger control patterns that are relatively easy to drop accuracy on. We do see Toybot down at 94%. And unfortunately, Chang down at 87, a lot less comfortable of a rating player. Is definitely a bit of third player syndrome here, and is going to find the first miss. Everybody from Texas surviving that big finger control section, but we do have another finger control section coming up that could catch some players off guard. Texas looking so good right now, and Chang just on that recovery.
Yeah, and I mean, this map is actually pretty short. We're already more than halfway done, and as you mentioned, the third player, Trigon, or Flames tier, most definitely not the third player on this team for Texas. 99 act into the ending. This is where you need to hold. This is so much the hardest part of the map. And Chang, yeah, as you mentioned earlier, down at 92, and this is already such a big lead for Texas. 200,000 is the difference. Of course, some very nice accuracies on Baji Man and Schwartz, but I mean, Flames here 99 earlier, gonna be dropping some ack in his combo as well into the ending, but this is basically the end of the map at this point, and we are done with this one. As Oregon getting the point broken to them on what is, in theory, the best pick in the pool for them.
Yeah, that's definitely more concerning. We do get 4 FCs, as the prophecy doesn't quite come true. But I mean, those are 2 really good team scores for sure on the map. But unless the map is just a lot easier than I think it is. But I can't imagine Oregon were expecting to come up against 2.6 million score. And yeah, I mean, you have your dedicated rating players, Toybot and Trigon with the FC, and Flames tier can just play absolutely everything now, putting up 800k as, you know, not one of the dedicated rating players is very impressive. And I mean, Oregon, I feel like they've been picking well. These are kind of the picks we would have expected, the picks that make sense. And unfortunately, Texas is just on top of all of them. I mean, they have such a stacked roster, and now they've got a lot of good pick options left open. Of course, they still have the DT3. They do also have the slider tech options, you know, no mod 1, and there was one more, wasn't there? Not quite. I know I want to be the tech option, but then also there's like just Hard Rock 3, which is more of a generic aim map. All very solid options for Texas. And now Oregon, it's going to take a lot. Their backs are up against the wall already. They're going to need 2 break points in Texas's next, 3 picks?
Yeah, currently down 0-3, and probably about to be down 0-4 as we go into DT3, 266 BPM mechanics. I didn't see too much strain per se when I was looking at this, but I think there were some finger control elements and a little bit of aim mixed in, so is probably the closest thing you would have to a standard DT1. Is the DT1 in this pool is actually pretty old. It's a pretty old map, so it's not really sharp angles on the aim like a modern DT1 would be. It's probably the closest thing you would have.
Yeah, it's DT1 if DT1 was 206 BPM and a little bit more awkward.
Yeah. 266 BPM and also low AR. Like, this is really dense. It's base AR 8 and 266 BPM after DT. So yeah, that's just incredibly dense. Even AR 10 at this BPM is dense. And then you're also taking into account the SR is 8.29 is what we have on sheet. That's going to be a lot of notes on your screen at the same time with all those stats put together.
Yeah, I think they should generally be able to handle it. It does feel like the speed is the biggest test on this map, getting through those bursts. I mean, the aim you do have to watch out for as well, as the classic speed players missing on aim. We'll see if we do end up seeing that. We are going to be seeing Trigon in for this one. Is interesting from Texas. I didn't know Trigon could tap at 260, so let's go Trigon. And then, of course, we've got the more expected Oregon roster, Luna, Eddie, and Tile.
Yeah, a little bit surprised on the Trigon as you are. Maybe I feel like Decaden should be able to play this, but maybe there's just a little few too many bursts back to back. That's a little too strainful on his hands. But it will be Trigon, and we will be getting into the map. Interesting note, also mapped by Gazimol, so we do get to see some Gazimol patterns. Always fun to see those, play those. As you can see already, a little bit of a non-standard DT1 awkward-ish aim that we were referring to, but definitely closer to a modern DT1 in terms of the patterning than the actual DT1 of the pool, I would say.
Yeah, and Oregon certainly will have some chances on this map. You know, you can't count them completely out of it, especially a player like Eddie put up the top score on last week's DT3, and Oregon ended up getting the second best team score on the map. So they are, at the very least, capable of playing these kinds of tapping-heavy maps. We do see a couple accuracy struggles, unfortunately, on both Eddie and Tile. Flames Tier, Aiden, and Trigon all keeping their accuracies up, but Trigon does find that early miss. It does quickly get traded back by Tile, and Flames Tier is starting to build up recovery. Did find a miss right at the start. That one shouldn't be too relevant, but Oregon find themselves with a small advantage early on, which is all you can ask for on your opponent's pick. Trigon finding yet another miss here, but so did Luna, just 100 combo earlier, so bit of a 1v1 on our hands, but of course Flames Tier is the second best recovery, and that advantage does go back over to Texas.
Yeah, I would actually say Luna's Stabby's misses is the bit of the more painful miss to happen. Is there goes Eddie, and that's really going to be painful. Luna Stabby was at 98 earlier around when the miss happened, and that was really unfortunate, losing their highest accuracy big combo. And with Eddie dropping, it's really going to pull things in favor of Texas. It does get traded back by Aiden and Flames Tier, a bit delayed, but now it's Trigon on the big combo for Texas. It just continues to go in their favor, 100k or so. Tile is building up recovery at the moment. There it goes right before the break, and it's just Eddie at the moment.
I mean, it is still doable. This is a very short, very dense map, which means there is potential for some huge score swings, but there is combo on Eddie, is the best hope. This really is going to go back over. There's a couple misses from Luna and Tile. Eddie does hold on. That's the key. It's pretty much a full reset, but Eddie does find the chain miss, needed to hold on, would have had a chance, but that is going to be point number 4 now for Texas, as Oregon still searching for that first point, as it is a solid team score from Texas. Honestly, not necessarily the team score would have expected from them on the tapping D2 picks, but it is just a very tough map in general.
Yeah, all the players struggling a little bit more than we would have thought on some of the DT mechanics picks, but it does turn out up in Texas' favor at the end. Of course, it was their pick consolidating that breakpoint off of Oregon. Now, Oregon really in a pickle here. If they drop another breakpoint and Texas manages to consolidate, then they are just on match point. So they need to find... and of course, if they do just go ahead and trade back and forth, then they will just lose in the next 6 maps. So, as you were saying earlier, they do need to find a breakpoint at some point in Texas's next 3 picks. But before we get started talking about breakpoints, let's talk about winning our own picks. Like, Oregon really needs to win this next one, otherwise things are really looking disastrous for them if they aren't already.
One step at a time, you know, win your own pick, then get the breakpoint, and then figure out the rest from there. Now, the picks are starting to get a lot more difficult for Oregon at this point, especially after the previous 2 losses. Now, they have had some really good results on kind of flow aim, flowy alt maps, especially looking back at the semifinals. They had a really good team score, and Schwartz or Luna especially had a very good individual performance on some of those flowy alt picks. And so in that case, you could look at something like the Nomad 2 as a potential pick, just to switch it up a little bit. And otherwise, I do think some of the hidden maps should still be decent options for Oregon. I mean, Oregon has been quite solid on some of the lighter tech maps as well. Looking at the shot freaks, they're gonna go for Nomad 4. We're just gonna go for some aim consistency, a lot of kind of big, high spacing jumps, and at 4 minutes long, it really is going to be mostly a consistency test, aside from the random space stream in the middle of the map.
Oh yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I was clicking through this map earlier in the editor, and I was like, oh, that looks like something we should mention on the broadcast. But yeah, gonna be. I believe it was pretty far towards the end, the back half of it as well.
The space stream is almost right in the middle of the map. It's a big potential score.
Was it smack dab? Was it smack dab halfway?
More or less, yeah.
I thought it was 3/4 or around the solo, but I guess I was just wrong then. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of a. Yeah, we will.
As we get similar lineups back in, we are just waiting for the last member of Oregon. As we are here for the chillier pair, Nomad 4 FC waiting room. As Tile looks like is going to be the third. Not so much of a Luna map this time around.
A little bit too intense on the mechanics is this one, and being accompanied by Boshyman. Who else but Boshyman and Eddie? I did have one comment I wanted to make before we got in, but I just forgot. Wonderful.
Okay.
All right, but
you're gonna remember like right in the middle of the map.
I actually, yeah, I did just remember as you were saying, Oregon really starting to run out of picks, and it kind of shows when you have to pick mechanics into the mechanics team instead of something like something a bit more gimmicky. And you look for the gimmick picks, maybe some alt picks, maybe 3 mod 4. Even those are just so mechanically intensive. But,
yeah, I mean, it is interesting because Texas are absolutely the mechanics team, and they certainly have that reputation, but they actually haven't played much, of this inconsistency throughout the tournament. They've really avoided it even in later stages of match, against a team like Virginia. I believe they opted not to pick it, and so maybe they are a little bit shyer on some of these aim maps, or it could also be that Nomad 1-esque maps tend to be more coin flippy against lower seeds, so it could just be that as well. But with Oregon having some really good aim scores, they were third on last week's aim Nomad, and I believe it was Eddie who popped off on the Nomad 5. Yeah, really good score, and so I definitely see the idea behind the pick. We do get a couple early misses. Bashi was the first to drop, but quickly followed up by Flamesteer and then Tile. Again, this is a pretty long map, so there's going to be plenty of time to recover that combo as we approach the next big set of jumps.
Just waiting as the players build up a little bit more free combo here, but there's no more free combo on those cross screens, and there goes both Boshyman and Tile. Trade out by Flamesteer, but Eddie still holding on. The man you mentioned for this Nomad aim for Oregon, but matched on the other side by Decaden and Chillier pair, looking for, of course, the FC on Nomad 4. Give me a little bit far away on that one. Still only about a third of the way into this map, and Decaden actually goes down, but there goes Eddie as well. And now it's just Chillier pair holding on.
But Space Stream, I believe, coming up momentarily, should just be in the next 5 to 10 seconds. So the big question is, can Chillier survive that combo? Was the only one to survive the previous Ki, and has built up a nice 70,000 point lead for Texas, but that could go right back over if we see some chain misses on the Space Stream. Assuming it's actually here. I'm not making things up, but here it is. The question is, all eyes on Chillier. Good start, nails that one. Decaden does find a miss on the Buzz Slider. We might need to get a resync because Decaden is slightly behind, or slightly ahead of the other players. As with Chilier nailing that one, Texas are far in the lead now. On a no mod 1 style map, 160,000 points is pretty massive.
We'll have to see if Chili Pierce combo was a banjo break or not. Maybe there was some issues when we were reloading into the map, but looking at the other combos in the lobby, Decade and Flames here holding very nicely ever since they broke earlier. Tile almost matching, but he's just one player. A little bit of supporting combo from Eddie, nothing on Bashiman, and it's already 200,000 score in the pockets of Texas at the moment, and that is so much on a map as long as this one. Almost 4 minutes more going, a little bit, one more stream going into the ending, and it's just more of the same cross-screen jumps. And I mean, Tile is holding on very nicely, but so is Decaden. Flamesteer will finally drop, and there goes Chili Pair as well, but 1.5 combos against one on Decaden, and the score lead is just too much to pull back for Tile in the ending. I think, well, hold on a minute, actually, there goes Decaden, and here's an opening. Tile does have 1k combo and Eddie on 600. Washiman still struggling to put anything together, but the score lead has already dropped to about 150,000, about an eighth of the map to go, and there goes Eddie, and I think that might just be it.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been quite enough even with Eddie, so now without Eddie, certainly, almost certainly not going to be enough, although, I mean, it is going back over quicker, but I just don't think there's much time left in the map. These jumps are so brutal at the ending. The score continues to shrink, but the clock is ticking for Oregon. Tile, that was an insane ending.
Wow.
Like, hitting that whole ending is just nuts. So shout out to Tile. Unfortunately, not quite enough to get a point on the board in Texas. Gonna be up 5-0. Oregon now in danger of being swept by Texas for the second time.
Yeah, that is 3 of 3 break points given up. And Texas will likely consolidate. They have many picks in this pool, which favor them. Of course, winning the slider tech on the Hard Rock 2 going to put them in a good position to pick into the No Mod 1. Of course, the aim going a little bit closer than they would have liked, perhaps. So maybe shying away from the Hard Rock 3 as they have shied away from the more standard aim picks up until now, as well as probably the No Mod 5 and the Free Mod 1. Free Mod 1, a Jonathan LFJ map on a Falcon Sound Team JDK song. So you'll know exactly what kind of map that is in No Mod 5 some more. Just mechanics consistency, probably not the best maps to try and push the advantage. Might look for a Hard Rock 1. Of course, there is still always the danger of having a Bashiman pop off when it comes to that precision.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of options, and this is kind of the secondary problem of picking up so many breakpoints, aside from the big issue of just not having any points, is that you don't get your opponents very deep into their pick strategy, and so they can pick pretty much everything and feel pretty good about it. You know, despite being up 5-0, Texas has only picked 2 maps, now 3 with the Hidden 2, and this Hidden 2 is pretty interesting. It is going to be kind of an aim tech map. It is 4 minutes in length, so a bit of a consistency pick as well. But it does have again, a few space control patterns, not so different from the space stream we saw previously. So I wonder if we do see, Tile come back in alongside Eddie and Bashiman.
We could see him in for sure. It is pretty mechanically intensive. I was looking at it earlier. There's a lot of long streams in this one. It's almost a mini Victoria in some sections, I want to say. Not quite as intense on the spacing, the sudden spacing changes, but still pretty spaced in some sections. Of course, 210 BPM as well. A lot of tapping stream, gonna be pretty tough to stream that. Interestingly enough, AR10 on the Hidden. Just question mark above my head, but sure. Data maps, data pool.
I do love data pools. They are, well, okay, I have to say, I absolutely hate prepping for data pools because I have to actually pay attention when I'm looking through the maps because they're all weird and not what you'd expect. But in terms of viewing and game experience, I mean, the pools are just so much more fun than your standard slot pools. And, it gives opening for things like, pulling Freedom Dive in Free Mod and pulling things like AR0. That just make for some really interesting matches, and you get to see, your AR0 players shine when you don't normally get to see AR0. Usually it's limited to AR8, maybe some AR7. I
We've
think that's
seen
really fun.
AR6
But
or AR5, and I think we've seen AR4 in NAT as well.
yeah,
But yeah, usually not all the way down to the 0. We do get into things here. It's going to be Chang, Schwartz, and Eddie in for Oregon. Chili Pair, Toybot, and Flamesteer. It's actually going to be Trigon sitting this one out. So despite showing good performance on the hidden streams on Freedom Dive earlier, the flowy mech tech of 210 BPM, not quite his flavor of game.
yeah. Into the first alt pattern, doesn't catch out any players early. Toybot will miss on the burst shortly after. And this map does have quite a few of these, slightly faster bursts to watch out for that can drop some accuracy, can potentially claim some combos as well if players aren't careful, but we should see a little bit more stabilization. Chang is going to find the next big miss and finds 4 misses in a row. Going to be thinking that accuracy as we get into a bit more of an aim control section, and there is also a really brutal cut stream relatively early in the map. I would guess it's coming up in 15 to 20 seconds. That could be the first pattern to claim a lot of combos. For now, it is just Chang with repeated misses. Toybot is on a very solid recovery after that early miss.
Yep, 2 full combos, and on the note of the accuracy, Chili Pair 99% right now. The highest in the lobby by a good margin is Luna's Tabby. Highest accuracy on their team, just under 98. And Flamesteer going to be matching that. There goes Toybot, however, going to drop as Chang still builds his recovery, but of course, having had that combo for so much longer, it's going to be favoring Texas, and there go a couple more misses. It's going to be Chang, Schwartz, and Flamesteer. So Flamesteer dropping a big FC, trade out by Schwartz. And it's just Chiller Pair against Eddie in the 1v1 at the moment, but he's already made a just about 100k score in the favor of his team. Big
Oh, Eddie!
pattern, and there goes Eddie as well. Clearly frustrated with the cursor dance in the slow section as well now.
Yeah, I mean, misses on the high velocity big slider. That's one you've practiced so many times, and I feel like in practice, you hit that slider, 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10 in practice, and then it makes it extra frustrating when you find that slider break in match, especially when you have that FC still on the other side. Eddie pretty much needed to hold it. Now, yes, there's a third of the map to go, but it's 170,000 points. Chillier, our caster coach, still on that full combo. Such impressive accuracy as well. And this map isn't that much harder. There goes Chillier, finally finding the miss, but where is the combo for Oregon? It's Eddie being matched by Flamesteer, and otherwise, it's just non-existent. So they're going to have a lot of work to do as Luna now with yet another miss.
Yeah, I mean, this map is pretty long, but of course, the map being so long does mean that this 200,000 score is a lot to try and pull back, and just more misses. Flamesteer continuing to build up the recovery and match Eddie. And I mean, Chang, it does have, I mean, just as I say his name, going to be dropping that recovery as well, finding more big chain misses, and there's just nothing else but Eddie. Eddie, the only man standing for Oregon, and I believe he will be alone going, and not even, as that is a very frustrating miss on that slider, and it's looking like just about the end of this pick for Oregon. Flamesteer with hefty amount of recovery combo, 800 going into the ending, but we are basically done with this one.
Yes, we are, and we might be nearly done with this match as well. That is going to put Texas on match point. Oregon, yes, they do have the pick, but so far, that hasn't worked out for them all too well.
Yeah, I mean, they have picked their quote-unquote favorite picks, the No Mod 3 and the Freedom Dive with Easy, as nobody going to be closing out with any combos in the ending, but it's going to be Chillier Pair. Quite happy with that score of just under 700,000. Flamesteer matching Eddie almost exactly, actually. Look at how close those scores are. Just around 200 total individual score between those two. But yeah, Chillier Pair making quite the difference in that one.
Yep. So the question is now, what do we want to see? Really, I want to see Hidden One just because it is a bad. I mean, I do think Hidden One.
Unfortunately, that's banned.
Oh, You're so right. Never mind. In
I
that
also
case,
would love to see hidden one, but unfortunately we're
I
not allowed to. So,
yes. In that case, I really want to see hidden one. Get it unbanned.
all right, you heard the man. Let's do it. Remove that ban label right off that map. Strip it away. Free the hidden one from its captivity. What? No, but in all seriousness, I do think an interesting pick would be the Hard Rock 1. It is pretty gimmicky in terms of its rhythm. It does have a bit of a swing rhythm. And thank you, our streamer Cheese, for putting that one on for just a second.
For a brief moment, there was hope.
Yeah. But yeah, the Hard Rock 1, it's precision. There is a chance that Bashi Man pops off on that one, you know? Maybe you do try and play towards his skill cap, try it, and get him to do something. Put up, you know, maybe a 700k, 800k, maybe an FC. And of course, the gimmicky rhythm elements should also play in the favor of the other members of Oregon's team. And the gimmick players on the side of Texas, Toybot and Trigon, I don't think they really like the precision or the hard rock, especially not combined.
I don't know about that one. I mean, Texas
Not entirely
loves the
familiar.
precision hard rock. Between Decatur, Chillier, and Flames tier, they have been...
Okay, I mean, I guess those three would be able to play it quite fine.
Yeah. They've got a very capable roster, but not going to matter in the end, as we are going to get free mod 1 is going to be the Falcon Sound Team map, and this is pretty similar to pretty much every other Falcon Sound Team map you have ever seen. It is some aim and some alts mixed in too.
Yep, 218 BPM, so not super high like some of the other ones in existence, thinking to Jean Stoms, and another one that's around 270 is their Arbitrator as well, up there in the BPM ranges, but it's been relatively low. 218, of course, mapped by who other than Jonathan LFJ. CS4 AR 9.4, so there's a decent balance between the two mods. Of course, those flow alti sections on the AR 9.4 are going to be a bit tricky for the hidden players, but of course, Hard Rock is Hard Rock. I mean, I'm sure Texas will be just fine playing the Hard Rock. Of course, you have Caden should be more than capable of playing this one. The BPM well within his striking range. And Flames here, and it looks like it's going to be Toybot to pick up the hidden for them.
Yeah, that's kind of the standard they run. They put Decatur on the Hard Rock, generally Toybot runs that hidden, and they put Flames tier on the Nomad, which has been working quite well for them. Oregon also usually does something which I really like, which, okay, they're actually not going to be doing here. I was going to say they always have Eddie on the Hard Rock with Luna on the hidden so that Bashi can have a much easier time on the Nomad, but they're not going to be playing Bashi at all on this map. We are going to get Tile back in, and last time Tile was in, Tile put up an absolutely ridiculous showing on that, what was it, Nomad 5, so...
Nomad 4.
You know, if Oregon is... Or Nomad 4, you're right, thank you. And
Yeah.
so, you know, if Oregon wants to get their point on the board, maybe we just need a similarly impressive pop-off from Tile on this pick.
Yeah, and you know, Bashi Man actually struggling a little bit on the Nomad 4 earlier. Going to be swapping out for another one of his players. It's actually Tile on the Hard Rock here with Eddie on the Nomad.
It's going to be the first time they've had Eddie off of that Hard Rock all tournament long, so we'll see how that works out for them. Maybe they think Eddie can put up a really good score, and that's all part of the free mod strategy, right? If you have a player that can put up, you know, something like a near FC on a Nomad, sometimes it's really worth it to just let them put up that big score and just have another player tank the Hard Rock mod, even if they get, you know, 100, 200k less. We're going to see a couple early misses out of Toybot and Decatur, so Flames tier will be the last FC for Texas. Meanwhile, Oregon off to a strong start, still holding that three-way FC. This is a 3-minute map, so there is plenty of time for the recovery, as accuracy shouldn't be too much of a factor on this map, but a great start for Oregon. The question is, how long can they keep it up?
Yeah, I mean, we did see Tile keep it up for quite a long time in that Nomad 4, so of course the Hard Rock going to be a little bit more difficult as we go into some of these linear aim patterns. It's going to be both Lunas, Tabby, and Eddie to drop, but Tile still holding on in these triangles. My goodness, he's matching Flames tier as well. And into the flow alt section, he finally go down, but straight up by Flames tier. So with a little bit of score lead a little bit of a buffer created from the time that they had the combo advantage will result in, I mean, I was going to say it was going to result in about 50k in their favor, but already quickly grinded down and actually grounded down to dust. Is basically just dead even at this point. Only the chain misses on both sides going to be causing any fluctuations in that one, as we see a lot from both Decayed and Toybot. Surprisingly, the two are Decaying more surprisingly. He's really expecting him to be incredibly solid on these mechanics types picks, but no, at the end of this section into the break, it is an ever so slight advantage for Oregon, and we'll have to check in when things resume on where those combos lie. It is Luna Stabby on a very small recovery, essentially matched by Flamesteer. And looking at the accuracies, Tile going to be struggling a little bit more than the others down there at 94, matched by Toybot, but Eddie also there's a bit of an accuracy advantage to Texas, although the combo does look like things will be pushed towards the favor of Oregon at the moment.
Yeah, Luna finds a big set of misses there. Flamesteer not going to be trading this time around, and this score is going to flip so quickly back in favor of Texas. The accuracy doing so much work for them as well. These 94s are just not helping them. Texas have their small recoveries. Eddie, Tile not able to match. Flamesteer has been one of the best players for Texas all tournament long, and going to be there to close out this match on the free mod one. It does finally find the miss on the linear patterns, but Toybot is there to keep Texas in the lead. And unfortunately for Oregon, they are going to fall to Texas once again with 0 points.
Yeah, that will be it for Oregon here in the USA States Cup, matching their previous best, but going no further as Texas once again advance to the top 4 here at the USA States Cup 2026.
Yeah, shout out to Oregon. You know, didn't get any points in this match, but they did have some close maps throughout, and they do tie their top placement that they got last year, 5th/6th. So clearly Oregon have been on a pretty solid, consistent, upwards trend really since 2021. Going from 9th to 12th team, now have improved to be a bit of a consistent top 6 team. So, surely we might be able to see them improve even further in next year's USC, and have another shot at that top 4. Commiserations to Oregon, and of course, another congratulations to Texas, who will be moving on to top 4 for I believe it is the second or third year in a row, as they'll be facing the winner of SoCal and Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough matchup. Oklahoma taking out the other California in the previous round, thanks to the great efforts of their new rising star this year, but a bit of a different caliber of opponent in the first seed of Southern California this time. It will be a tough fight for them to try and come to the second round of losers to match Texas, or the second round of losers finals, losers round 7. That will be, but for now, you will have to wait and see the result of that match as we wrap things up for tonight.
Nope, we've got a few more matches, of course, to come this weekend. We've got SoCal versus Oklahoma on the other side of the losers bracket, 3 UTC Sunday. And then we have New York versus Virginia, our winners final, 1 UTC Monday. And then Texas versus either SoCal or Oklahoma is going to take place on 3 UTC Monday. But that's going to do it for us. I have Villain Flame, joined today by Bless, and a huge thank you to Keys for the stream. Last but not least, thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more USC.
See you guys next time.